All right, good morning and welcome to the Patriotic Dragon radio program this Saturday morning. Pleased to have on with us this morning Katherine White, who's running for the Board of Education, Post 1. Katherine, good to have you on.
Great, thanks for having me, Will. I'm excited to be here.
All right. And also Mr. Larry Cantrell joining us. Larry, good to have you on with us. And I just want to start out with just a couple of things. And Katherine, I appreciate you coming on to talk about your background and the reasons that you're running for the Board of Education post, and Mr. Cantrell for being on as well to express your thoughts on the position and the runoff here July 26th. But I want to start out with something that we as a community need to ask, which is more important. The statement, I was born here and have lived here my whole life, or I have experience in the education system and have dealt with its attributes and its shortcomings. As I read letters to the editor, it begs the question, do we need to continue to defend the superintendent or defend the incumbent? Or do we want to move toward a fresh and not recycled thought process? We need to enlarge the pool of information and experience, not make it smaller. We need to also, in my standpoint, we need to definitely increase the 5-minute public forum that's allowed at the Board of Education meetings, but that's my personal thoughts. I know doing the radio show, it's hard to get my thoughts together in a good format for a 5-minute pitch, much less a parent who has concerns and is trying to get their thoughts put forth to a board in 5 minutes. Another thing that was written up in the letter to the editors was the current administration of the superintendent's salary being only, I like that word only, $120,412.50, as was pointed out in the progress letter to the editors. That's not bad for a 49% employee, plus housing allowance and car, etc., while she receives her full state retirement. And just to clarify from the letter to the editor, we as Georgia taxpayers are paying her health and her retirement, since we all pay into the state system via our taxes. So if we're going to write letters to the editor, Mr. Treasurer, make sure that you balance it with the full facts, not just the facts that match up to your opinion. So that being said, that's my opinion, just saying. Again, Katherine, thank you for being on. If you would, for the listeners, let's kind of go back through your background and what made you decide to run for the Board of Education, because I know it doesn't pay $120,000 a year, so let me know why you want to be on.
It doesn't. Thanks again for having me. That I did read that statement about being a lifelong resident of Pickens County, and we like to make the joke, well, I wasn't born here, but I got here as quick as I could. And, we've lived here for almost 15 years, my family and I, and this is where we purposefully researched areas around the metro Atlanta area to find a place that we thought would be a great place to raise our children. And we specifically targeted Jasper because of the small town feel and because of a lot of the things that we have to offer here. We had a good school system, even though it's small, and this was 15 years ago when we were looking. And we just thought that we would enjoy having our children raised in this atmosphere. So, when he says that he's a lifelong resident, he was born here, and I purposefully chose to live here. We came with the intent to have our children grow up around neighbors where they could run around the neighborhood and be safe, and go to schools where they would be going to school with the same people their whole career and not be swapping around different. The schools are not big, they're small, so they would have an opportunity to get to know their classmates and make really good connections with their teachers. So I don't necessarily think being a lifelong resident makes you qualified to be on the school board. I think that being having experience in the school system is definitely helpful to be on the school board. I've been in education, that's what my degree is in, and I have been a teacher for over 14 years. Not only have I been a teacher, I've been on the admin team with the teachers. With the principals and the administration team, serving as the grade level chair, making decisions for our school, coming up with a strategic plan, making sure that we were meeting all of the, for lack of a better word, all the requirements that the county and the state asked us to do. I also served as the new teacher mentor, mentoring all brand new teachers, which has been known to have a positive impact on teacher retention. When you make sure that you have strong teacher mentor programs in place for new teachers, the likelihood of the teachers not leaving is greater. So I was the sole new teacher mentor for my school the last 3 years I was there. And I also was on the discipline committee discussing different ways that we could, with the PBIS, which is the current system that Pickens County uses as well. I served on the discipline committee at my school, deciding what measures we were going to take each year to have better structures in place for our students, and so they'd be more successful and have less discipline problems in our school. And I also served as a professional learning community coach, meeting with the teachers around the school, looking at test scores and data from all the different areas that we took data from, deciding what could we do as professionals to make our school better and to increase the retention that the students had from the material that we taught them. So I've spent a lot of time in education, and when I left education, I didn't leave education. I remained very active. I'm active in a lot of groups that are across the states that are working hard with the government, with the state government and the federal government, trying to make some necessary changes that I believe we should have. We work with state senators, we work with the legislators, we write letters, we meet with them. Just recently I met with state superintendent. I didn't just have my picture made with him. I met with him for over 3 hours. There was a small group of teachers that met with him to discuss why we think we're having the crisis that we're having in the state of Georgia, why teachers are leaving, why we see parents pulling their children out in droves to homeschool. So it wasn't just a picture opportunity. It was a time that I got to spend really pounding the pavement, discussing what can we do, what can he do in his position to better help us teachers in the state of Georgia. So I feel like a lot of these things that I can bring to the table, my opponent doesn't necessarily have these connections, nor has he been in the school system. He has never taught. He may have teachers that taught, and I'm so thankful that his parents were teachers. I mean, I commend them, and I'm so glad that they were able to give such positive influences to the children in the community here in Pickens. But just having parents as teachers doesn't necessarily make you qualified to be a board member.
Right. Yeah, and with all that being said, I think that should, for most voters who think about it, fully answer the question of whether you're ready day one to hit the ground and be effective. And your credentials speak for themselves from that standpoint. And I've had several conversations with you, and I know some of the things you have worked on at the state and national level, and is how I think we're on the same page as far as how we feel about Common Core and the issues there. And those are things that need to be drilled down and looked at in what we're compliant that the federal government requires our system to do in order to be and get those funds from the federal level, and then what we're doing that we really don't have to. And there's always a negotiation. There's always a medium in there. You either do too much or you do too little. If you do what's required and then you do what's needed locally for our students and our schools, and I think those are important things that we really look forward to having a discussion on. Mm-hmm. So, and now I'd like to bring Mr. Cantrell into the conversation, and we'll slide that mic around there for Mr. Cantrell. And Mr. Cantrell, thank you for being on. And I appreciate your involvement. I know the a race in any political office is tough, and whether you're from here, and you've been here, I think, pretty much your whole life, and have educators in your family, and so you've seen it firsthand. And so tell me a little bit about what made you decide to run originally, and then why you're here with us today.
Well, originally when I decided to run, my wife taught school for 32 years. She's seen the decline of the school system, not just in Pickens County, but all over the state. And she taught for 32 years, and she retired early. Well, I say early. She retired before she wanted to because she couldn't stand harassment anymore from some of the administrators. And my concern with the county is all the teachers we've lost. And it don't seem like that some of the board members has even investigated to see why they're leaving. And I think that from the information I got, the high school lost 23 teachers in the last 2 years. And I don't know how many lost at the middle school where my wife taught, but it was several. And another concern of mine is it seems like that some of the board members don't care about the people that come in there with their concerns. Like you spoke of before, they have such short forms. They should increase this form and give the teacher a whole lot more time or teachers and the parents for their concerns, but they don't seem to care. So I'm up here to excuse me. I want to thank all the people that voted for me in the county, and I'd like to see them consider voting for Katherine, because I think she'd make a good school board member. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cantrell. So your endorsement of Katherine from your voters, I think, will go a long way, because obviously the people who you met with and spoke with, who are concerned parents and voted for you, they care about the schools, they care about their children, their grandchildren, and so we want to make sure that those voters get out, either by the end of the day today, or definitely Tuesday the 26th, and cast their vote for Katherine White.
And the ones that didn't vote for me, I'd like them to consider voting for Katherine also.
All right. Well, good deal. All right. Back to you, Katherine. What a couple of questions that I've gotten from listeners who've sent in to me, and some of these we had at the debate format. As far as what we're allowed to do from a board of education or board member, I know it's very restrictive as to what can be done, but the review of policies and each one of the schools, and I think the big thing that's coming up on us now is obviously we've passed the eSPLOST, so the money's is set aside for a new school and to spend on education. What have you heard from concerned voters and that type of thing as far as input on what we should do on that middle school, and what would you, as a board member, consider a recommendation on? Not that I'm holding you to it today, because I know there's a tremendous amount of more information needs to be gathered, but what did you hear from the voters?
You know, it's funny. I haven't heard too much from the voters about the middle school. That hasn't been what's been the biggest issue that I've heard about. The most anonymous letters that I've received, I've gotten some letters anonymously and not anonymous, some letters that people have concerns they've sent me directly through Facebook and through my email. And the major concerns that I keep hearing is just the climate and the culture that we have in the county, and that how the teachers, have written me letters that have made me cry reading them about how they feel they don't have a voice and how they feel that they're unable to we're talking about increasing the limit of coming to the, to speak at the board meetings, but they don't even feel comfortable coming to the board meetings because they're scared for retribution. They're scared to speak up, that if they speak, that they're going to be held accountable for it and going to be somehow punished in their day-to-day job. That makes me disgusted and sick. As a teachers, we shouldn't become second-class citizens where we no longer have a voice. Teachers and school staff should be able to speak out at any time of course, respectfully and taking the appropriate measures, and they shouldn't feel nervous or scared to be speaking to someone who they're supposed to go to speak to. The board is supposed to be people, we're elected as representatives. We're not the ones that are supposed to be making the decisions all by our lonesome. We're supposed to be speaking to our constituents, asking our constituents, going around, feeling out people and thinking, what do the people that voted me into this position, what do they want? It's not all about what I want. I mean, I have my ideas and I've been in education for a while, but I truly want to be elected to find out what the people that put me in the position want to do. I mean, I represent their vote. So, I haven't heard too much, and what I have heard, every parent that I've spoken to when I go to the ball games or when I go out and I see them at the grocery stores, what I've heard the most is that they're in favor of a smaller school. I've heard the concerns that the differences between the people on the west side and the east side of the community, that they feel like in middle school, the age of the children, they're just not ready to handle some of the pressures that come with the children from the different sides of the county meeting together. That there's definitely differences from the sides of the county of the children that go there, and the people had said that they didn't think that the kids in middle school are already going through so many changes, and to be suddenly thrust together with these other students that are kind of, a lot of them come from a different background, would not necessarily be a good idea. And I think at the debate, I gave lots of different reasons. I can only speak from an educational standpoint. That's where I do my research from. I mean, I continually reading journals and reading articles daily. Every day I read at least 5 articles about education. And all of the research that I did prior to the debate, because I knew that was going to come up because it was in the newspaper, was that the smaller schools fare better. All of the reasons behind a smaller schools, that you have more individualized attention, you have less discipline problems, the test scores are higher, there's more parent involvement. Smaller schools seem to be the way to go if you want what's best for children educationally. Now, there were some articles that I read about bigger schools, and the main idea of a bigger school is it saves money. So I'm not quite sure that saving money almost every single time is what's best for kids. If I'm elected to tell what's best for students and teachers and school staff, I want to do my research and find out what's best, whether we have to spend a few more dollars or not. And a lot of the research I did read said that if it was saving money, it didn't save that much.
Right.
The amount that it did save when they had these larger schools didn't outweigh the benefits that a smaller school had. So, like you said, I don't want to be held to anything, because there's a lot more research to be gathered and a lot more specific knowledge that I need for our county to be able to make a decision. But in my personal education, my opinion would be to have a smaller school, to keep the schools separate. And, from all the parents that I have heard from, that's what they've said as well. But I'm going to be, if I am elected, I will be the person that will ask people and ask all the people in the community and ask my constituents, whether it be through Survey Monkeys or through just different forums where I can gather information. I'm not going to make the decision by myself. I'm going to ask the people that put me in the position, ask the people that elected me what their opinion is and what they would like to see. And I think that's why we elect people in the first place, is we want our opinions to be known. We don't want that person's opinion. We want them to represent what we as a community want.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, and one of the other things that kind of along that same line was the idea of the existing Jasper Middle School property appears to be large enough, so building at the back of it, taking down the ropes course, even the greenhouses, that type of thing, tennis courts, and possibly building a new modern multi-leveled ADA standard that meets everything was an option that I know some voters had put out there that they would like to. So look forward to those conversations once we get through the July 26th. We move toward looking at budgets and what we do with the middle schools on it. So is there anything else that you'd like to tell your constituents and your voters on this for the show for the upcoming runoff? Maybe to get out at one of their 12 precincts?
Yes, we have the early election is over. It was over on Friday. So I would like for you guys to make sure you get out and vote on Tuesday. You know, it's such an important privilege and right we have as American citizens. And, you know, I posted something on the Pickens County Forum for the education is that, you know, whether it's for me or for my opponent, it really, really is an important right that we have to vote as Americans. And, you know, local elections are so important because it impacts our day-to-day life. You know, we can be a voice that's heard in local elections. You know, you say, oh, what's just one more vote? But one more vote in a local election is a big deal. So I really implore all of the voters in Pickens County to come out and vote on Tuesday. Make your voice heard for the Board of Election. Help vote for change. I think that we're ready to see it, and I hope that you take advantage of your right and privilege to vote, and we'll see you at the polls on Tuesday.
All right. And just a quick reminder to all the voters that the early voting is over with. So you'll go to your normal polling locations, the 12 in the county, whether you're in Hinton or whether you're in Yellow Creek. Get out. We'll be there from 7 till 7. Bring in your information, and the people at the polling stations will be glad to help you. So get out and voice your concerns and get your vote heard. Thank you, and we will talk to you later on the Patriotic Dragon Radio.